Hey guys, I'm Richard Fitzgerald. This is Dubai Works, where we interview the business leaders making a difference in this great city.
That business with scalability was very interesting to me.
I like building something that has legacy.
Welcome back to another episode of Dubai Works Business Podcast. This week, I'm joined by Deyan Dimitrov, the founder of Laundryheap. So they are a service that collects, cleans, and delivers, you guessed it, fresh laundry and dry cleaning in just 24 hours. Deyan actually set up Laundryheap in 2014 with a vision of filling the technological and innovation gaps in the dry cleaning industry. Since then, he's successfully scaled Laundryheap to operate across Europe, the US, Middle East, and Asia. The service is now used by thousands of people globally, and the company is ranked as the 18th fastest growing tech company in the UK by Deloitte. So today we're going to talk all things the story of Laundryheap, and then the development of the dry cleaning industry, and also the future and why the Middle East and why Dubai. So good morning, Deyan.
Good morning, Richard. How are you?
It's afternoon here in Dubai, but I think it's morning in bright London, summer day in London.
Yeah, absolutely. It's 8 o'clock here, and it was quite a busy night actually in London because of the game last night.
Okay, yeah, it was quite noisy. Are you in central London? You heard all the fans supporting England, of course, beat Denmark.
Yeah, I'm just very close to Trafalgar Square, so it was a crazy night around here. People were out until early morning.
Have you been in London throughout this sort of Euros and you've sampled the atmosphere? It must be a nice sort of re-emergence after the kind of lockdown year.
Yeah, it's very different actually because I used to live here in London, and currently I spend most of my time in Switzerland. But then I come to London for kind of a month on and a month off, and it has been quite interesting to see how the city has changed through the pandemic. From a complete lockdown and then like opening up and more, and now in 2 weeks it's supposed to be completely open finally. So it's very interesting to see how people change and how the city changed itself. Here in central London, still a lot of shops are closed; they haven't opened yet. So it's very exciting. Everyone is looking forward to 2 weeks time.
Hopefully it continues, and you know we're obviously experiencing the Delta strain here and in Asia, and it's just continued disruption. But obviously Dubai has been open, and how has Switzerland been? Have you've obviously been able to kind of crack on, and it's probably been good for your business.
Yeah, like Switzerland has been quite stable from the beginning. They have quite a good health system, and in general, Switzerland doesn't have such a high population, and the transport is very different. So I think it's much easier to cope with problem like COVID. And yes, for us, as a business, it has been complete roller coaster. As I think for many other businesses as well. We had this up and downs and kind of worries as any other business, especially when COVID hit. We had a lot of plans. We were talking to investors. We were about to launch some cities, and we had to very quickly kind of reflect to what's happening. And also, a lot of people nobody knew what's happening, and whether it's going to last 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years. So it was quite emotional, and it was quite challenging. But at the end, we managed to navigate well, which I'm really happy with.
Brilliant, yeah, and we'll come up to the story. So the reason we're speaking, obviously, is that you've expanded and you've launched recently in a few cities across countries across the Middle East, including Dubai. But tell us the backstory. So 2014. What were you, Deyan, doing at that time, and how did you end up becoming an entrepreneur and the founder of Laundryheap?
Well, so my experience in founding companies is with Rocket Internet. I did a couple of ventures with them. The first one was in the travel industry. It was supposed to be the kind of the biggest competitor of like Airbnb in Europe. We raised $90 million at that time, so it was kind of like a huge story. And then after that, I moved to fashion e-commerce. So from London, moved to Amsterdam, moved to Berlin, to Istanbul. So we were doing fashion in Turkey. So it was quite an interesting experience. And after that, I decided to come back to London, and I had already built a like network of friends from Rocket as well, and colleagues. So we were looking to do a consumer service, and we, like my kind of background is not that, like my parents don't have a dry cleaning shop, and I've been in this business for so many years. It's very different. By traveling, I realized that there is this need for laundry and dry cleaning. It was always an issue. And realized there is a gap on the market, really. And looking at different consumer models, I realized it has very good unit economics. It's very sticky as a model, high average order value. And ultimately, it's a service where we, believe, myself and my co-founders, we saw an opportunity to add value to the user by using technology. So this was the reason why we wanted to test this and to see how users will react to our service.
Interesting. Yeah, it'd be great to talk a little bit more about that and how it was developed. But we don't often hear of failure stories, or we don't shed light on them. But that's a big number you mentioned in terms of an Airbnb competitor and something to raise. How did that go? And I guess, like, what happens to a company that raises that amount of money and doesn't sort of make it?
Well, it's a like a big roller coaster. I think like Rocket Internet is famous with a lot of great companies they've built, and some of these companies.
So they're here as well in Dubai. Yeah, they've got a good setup.
Actually, a lot of my when I was working in Turkey in 2011, it was we were just also creating some of these ventures in Dubai. So there were a few of kind of the fashion the fashion venture. I think it changed name a few times. The kind of the Amazon kind of copycat, the eBay. So we were doing quite a few of these. They started, I think, around that time. And also, like, a lot of entrepreneurs, I'm sure you're more familiar than me, but they came from the Turkey office. So what happened in 2011? The Turkey office closed for Rocket Internet completely, so they decided to exit Turkey. But then a lot of these entrepreneurs, they actually came to Dubai. They're some very good friends of mine, and they created these big brands now in the region.
Yeah, interesting. Which are some of those that we might know? Do you know?
It's quite a few of them. I used to work in the same office with the guys from Just Mop, for example. They went to the cleaning space.
Kareem, yeah. So that's I was going to mention Just Mop, because that's obviously similar to what you guys do.
Some guys went to Kareem, Namshi.
Yeah.
Like basically a lot of this Noon, a lot of if you look at who started kind of all of these companies, it's very closely related to Rocket Internet. So I think it was this power team that went into a lot of consumer services and e-commerce.
Definitely, Rocket Internet, of course, from Germany, the Sammer brothers, and have a lot of history of that. Is that how you were you a natural entrepreneur, or is that sort of something that you learned? And what were the skills that you kind of had that you think have made Laundryheap sort of successful at the moment?
Well, my background is in business and finance, so I had two options really. I could go into banking or consultancy, or become an entrepreneur. This was always very interesting for me, and I was lucky enough to join, as I mentioned, the first project within the Rocket that I was involved with, and it was very large project. So very quickly we had to hire a lot of people, had to do a lot of sales, had to understand the product market fit. So you have to, I guess, what many entrepreneurs go through many years in Rockets, you have to do it over a few weeks, just because there is so much pressure. we were working literally day and night in the Turkish office, and sometimes you'd come next day and you're gonna see the same people in the same clothes. It was not untypical. So it was a very high pressure environment, but at the same time you're young, you want to do as much as you can, you want to learn a lot. So it's a great environment. So a lot of people, so you either love it or hate it. And whoever kind of finds the benefits can learn quite a lot and kind of embrace it, and then you can use these skills. Like what happens usually is it's the same people, they continue and they do their own like ventures.
Interesting. So 2014, 2021, there's public information that you've raised, I think total of $5.4 million through angel round, seed round. How has that journey been? What were the roller coaster, the highs and lows? Can you talk us through it a bit?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's very different because we started in London, but then soon after we realized we need to prove this case, right? I mean, the service works great in London, and we had like very good unit economics. But then very often the question was, how big can this become? Is this like London specific? And we knew, of course, it's not. But you have to be able to prove it. Also, you have to be able to show that the company can scale, can grow. So very quickly we expanded internationally. So like Dubai was our third city internationally, actually. So it's we wanted to show like basically that there is somewhere else where the service could work. And like when we look to like where to expand, we found kind of Dubai and the region very interesting. As I said, like there are so many consumer startups that are leading the way. I think globally coming from the region. So for us, it was a very interesting place where we can really test the service, where we can play with the service and kind of shape it to match the customers. So it was a natural like progression for us as a company. And yeah, I mean, and the funding part, it came with it. Obviously any company needs funds in order to grow, and you need more funds if you want to grow faster. So this is the typical journey. I mean, there is no typical journey, I think, and our journey, I don't think, is very typical for a startup, but everyone takes their own path, depending on so many circumstances.
Yeah, interesting. But in the intro, I mentioned that you were recognized as one of the fastest growing in the UK, and your connections, obviously you're in Switzerland, but are you seen as a London, as a UK tech company? Is that where your funding comes from? Is that the ecosystem that you network in? And how does one sort of, from that base and still in early part of the company growth, how do you then expand, and how do you sort of leverage that sort of connections and PR and reputation, but also break into new markets?
Yeah, I think UK is a very good place to start a business, especially London. Like London is a great city, very global. It has it has all sorts of like user groups that you could target. At the same time, it's fairly easier, I would say, to find capital. So there are a lot of tax schemes. So our first round, and it's very typical in the UK that you get like a round of funding from angels. So this is like very promoted here. Angels get great benefit. It's almost a risk-free investment for angels.
Can you explain how that works?
Well, so the way it works, so there are two schemes for really young companies and for slightly older companies. But basically, what it means that if the company goes bust, the angel can, in the first case, the angel can get 50% back right away, and they like from their taxes. So they already get so. Basically, when they invest, they can claim 50% back right away from their taxes, and they can claim up to the other 50% up to the full amount from their taxes if the company goes bust. So basically, if the company makes it, they already got 50% tax benefit in any event. and obviously the benefit of the company like becoming larger. But if the company doesn't make it, it's very low risk. And at the next stage, there is the second scheme, which is slightly less beneficial, but still is very beneficial. So it's the investor gets 30% back right away from taxes. And then they can again claim something back. So it's like some of these schemes, they're incentivizing angel investors to invest into startups. So I think they're very beneficial.
Taking away the risk. But so good for investments, good for fundraising. What about for talent, and how did you go about it? Did you use your motherland of Bulgaria? Did you have a tech team in other markets, or how did you structure that? Is it kind of a freelance sort of virtual company?
Yeah, we've been very global from the beginning. So our tech team is in Slovenia. We have a large team in India at the moment. So like one of the co-founders, he's from India, and we started together actually in London. But then it's an interesting story. Like his visa expired for the UK, so he had to go back. And while we were applying for a visa, we found somebody else to work with him, and then slowly but surely we built a team around him. And what was supposed to be just a few people kind of helping us. In the meantime, like as the company started growing, we realized that we need a lot more talent. And you're absolutely right. Like it was very challenging for us to find people here in London, for example, to work late hours, to work overnight. And we wanted to provide great service. We wanted to do this overnight service. So this really helped us actually, because one of the founders was in India, and it's a great difference. Like when we had the job post here in the UK, we would have a few people applying. We posted a job in Bangalore in India, and we had like 500 people applying overnight. So it was a no-brainer to kind of really explore that avenue.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously that's kind of helped during the pandemic. So but how do you kind of draw this out? How do you strategize? Like obviously there's lots of options, there's lots of countries, there's lots of ways to kind of build things. How did you pull everything together? Did you prioritize tech and product? Did you prioritize marketing? And how did you go about sort of getting your MVP live, and then sort of, getting the first kind of customers using Laundryheap?
Yeah, so I mean, we started small, right? We started from one part of London, and that's how many startups, no matter where they are, whether in Dubai, in New York, or in London, you start from a small area. We start with one supplier, you start with a few drivers, and you see how it goes. And you learn a lot in the early days. We spend a lot of time like processing the orders ourselves, like speaking with the drivers nonstop, doing some orders ourselves, talking to customers, kind of the typical like what any founder really does in the very beginning, because we didn't know what the service is. We didn't know what a good service means for our customers. We didn't know why they're using us. We don't know what the alternative is. So it was very interesting, like from the early days. And I think this is what a lot of entrepreneurs actually enjoy the most. This kind of exploration stage and kind of coming to MVP. And then like we were lucky enough that this is it's a consumer service, so you get the revenue right away. You can put it back into work. We had some experience, so we knew how to market the service already. We were lucky also that it became very competitive very quickly, and I think that's a really good thing for a new sort of service, because it really educates the market. I think that the biggest challenge for us and still is that people don't know that they can do laundry online, right? That somebody can come to your door and collect your laundry. At least in markets like the UK, the US, this is really not common. I think in Dubai it used to be like more common, like that you call a number and somebody comes to your door. But in the Western markets, this is really not common. So we had to educate the customer that this is even possible. And like most people here in the UK, they have a washing machine. So again, we have to we have to compete with the washing machine, right? So you have to make it as easy for the customer to use it. So it was very, very interesting as any business really.
Okay, interesting. So the industry obviously is, there's the washing machine, but there's also laundry service companies as well. Other than the tech and the product, was there any other kind of capex that you outlaid on? Did you buy the vans? Did you have your own sort of laundry building or kitchen or cloud laundry services, if there's a term for it? Or did you partner with existing services in terms of providing that utility?
Yeah, so, I mean, we had to make this decision very early on because you have a few ways of doing it, and each of them has different benefits. And we've seen many companies doing it differently, and many of them have failed or succeeded. So we went through this exploration stage. We knew from the beginning that we we don't understand laundry and dry cleaning well, so we have to work with somebody that really understands it. We understand what customer experience is, what technology is, what a good conversion funnel is, but then we don't understand what the well cleaned shirt is for the customer. So we had to partner with people that have been doing that for many years. So this is our model. We outsource the cleaning part to our professional dry cleaning and laundry partners around the world. However, we also very early on decided to manage our own drivers. So again, because ultimately the driver is the face of the company, and we realized very early on that we have to control that experience. So we manage our drivers everywhere around the world. So this was a decision very early on. We did try different models. And so actually, like when we started in Dubai, we didn't manage our own drivers. We kind of decided to like when we soft launched, we decided to outsource it. But then very early on, we realized this is just not going to work very well for us, and it doesn't provide great customer experience. We had to change very quickly.
Interesting. Yeah, I was going to ask as well, like what the difference is between, say, Dubai and London and the other cities that you're in, and what stage. So Dubai was one of your first 3 cities. Did that grow faster when you launched, and what kind of led you to other cities here in the region?
Yeah, I'm a strong believer that anything could work anywhere. The world is so global right now, and people travel, and if something works in one city, it will very likely work in somewhere else. I think the question is, how deep can you go? Because there are people. So like if we want to go after kind of, let's say, British people coming to Dubai, we can be very niche service like that, and we can probably serve them very well. But at the same time, if you want to go deeper and kind of provide a meaningful service to a very large group on each market, then you have to really kind of look at how you handle payments, for example. How do you provide customer support? Kind of, there is a lot of technology, and I think this was also one of the reasons we wanted to challenge ourselves to go to a market that's very different, right? It's a different time zone, different currency, different payment options. So it creates this internal kind of challenge for the team, right? And in my mind, like I was thinking, if we can serve another time zone, then we can serve another 23 time zones to London. So this was almost like a challenge. It's almost like a challenge for the team, and Dubai is a great city to do something like that, because people are they're using a lot of technology. There's so many apps. So I think it works in English, which was a big advantage for us in the beginning. So I think these are all things that helped us come there faster.
Yeah, definitely. And there are, as you said, it's competitive. There's already other players, so the market is a little bit educated, and there's similar services that operate in this way. How much did you localize it? I noticed that you have Laundryheap.ae domain. Do you have a free zone license here? Did you do a different payment gateway? How much of the things that you needed to do to make it work in this market?
Right. So, I mean, in every market, we start without localizing too much, right? So a soft launch, we try to understand the market, we try to understand some of the unit economics, but then we very quickly we start thinking kind of what needs to be done to go deeper. So as you said, yes, we had to set up a company. We had to do a lot of changes in our technology to be able to serve the customers in the best possible way. That like it's always a progress and priority for the product pipeline, but like it's very important to be able to serve the customer well. So we always prioritize kind of the parts of the product that would help the customer experience before anything else. So it might be really painful on our ends to handle an order, but as long as it's very easy for the customer, that's the right choice. So and then obviously like you keep improving. Like anyone in especially services or like even e-commerce can tell you like it's like the tip of the iceberg, right? What customers see is maybe less than 10% of all the technology you have to build in order to serve all these orders. So it's work in progress. We're spending like most of our money going to IT and development. Just because there is so much if you want to provide great experience.
Interesting. And were there any additional features that you felt worked for sort of a Dubai or a Middle East audience based on the data that you received back from customers?
Yeah, there were some. I mean, we were kind of pleasantly surprised actually, because a lot of people talk about like traffic in Dubai, but then when we compare, we actually found it much easier to move around than places like London. At the same time, we realized that people are more flexible with the deliveries. So like in London, you even a couple of years back, you already had this kind of, you can get anything delivered from Amazon within 2 hours. You like now you have all these services that you can get your groceries, and they're competing on kind of like insane metrics. So one app says you're gonna get it in 20 minutes, the other one says 15, the other one says in 10. The other day I got this message. It says basically they say if you don't get it within 10 minutes, you get it free. So it's just insane. Like anyone that has done logistics knows how insane it is to do anything in less than 10 minutes. So the customer expectations are very different. We found Dubai customers to be slightly more flexible with us, with our delivery times, and so we obviously we use that in our advantage. At the same time, because we were not so much fixed to the time slots, we could provide the service. We could basically improve the service in a different way, so we could provide a faster service than anybody else in the market. So we basically we had to use it in our advantage and improve on the service.
Interesting. So as continuing to talk about Laundryheap, Deyan, what's your experience, and how do you explain to people outside of the sort of startup and the VC or angel sort of space, the unit economics on these type of companies? Because the example you just gave might mean loss making and burn rate for a long time in terms of, think something is free and obviously the tech costs and the drivers, and you're not even cleaning the shirt. So how do you explain it to people who understand traditional business of a price of a good, cost of goods sold, and profit margin? What's your understanding?
Well, I'm kind of a bit in the middle, right? So you probably have, as you said, so you have very traditional kind of approach where you have to make money from the first order, and then you have this like kind of VC-driven approach where you can afford to not be making money for a very long time, as long as you're tapping on a very large market where you can make a lot of money in the long term, right? And then my view is a bit in the middle. I think like you should aim to have a sustainable business model very early on. Would that be from the first order? No, right? Like you obviously there is some economies of scale that you need to achieve to get there. But I think as a business model, like you should not push yourself to such a limit that you have to be burning money on each order for a very long time, just because that's not a sustainable business model. Yet there are some areas where you are changing the customer behavior. So probably consumers need a bit of kind of help to get there. So I think it's a very interesting question, and it changed on like depending on the industry. But the choice we made for ourselves was that we are going to run this as a good business. Like we can make money very early on. And that will help us to be more independent, make our own decisions, be more customer centric than investor centric. So there are a lot of advantages to do it your own way, but that really depends on the unit economics, competitiveness of the market, and so on.
Interesting. But the second way that you described, usually, as you said, needs kind of mass volume and scale, and usually might mean that you need to be number one. So you need to be ahead of the competitors, and you need to be the top. But do you think that in this sort of example of hybrid, where you try and look after the costs and you try and grow revenues at the same time, do you think then from a consumer point of view that there is room for more than one player or a winner takes all, and that we can, depending, that we can have other sort of service utility apps on our phone, especially in laundry?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess the question is, would you have to, like basically would the customer suffer because you didn't invest enough in this transaction and because you're very early on? So I think this is what kind of really defines this. If the customer experience is not going to change so much, then you don't have to maybe like invest so much in each order. But of course, like it's always a decision, especially for founder. How much money you take and how fast you develop your technology and so on. How many cities do you go into? So I think it really kind of depends on like the favorite answer. It depends on the industry, on what you're doing, on the competitiveness, on how much access to capital you have. Even external forces such as COVID, and you have to change plans quite a bit.
Other than the obvious, so tech costs and say working with your drivers and your partners, what would be costs of your business that people wouldn't necessarily know that have a significant kind of dent in your revenues? Would it be the app store fees, or would it be other fees?
Well, there is a lot of cost for using different services, definitely. So I think again, it's like investing in a curve. So there's so many services right now, like SaaS and anything. So anything you want to build, you can build it very easily, very quickly. The problem with that is, and typically the fees are quite flexible to start with, but then the moment you grow and you get to a scale, you become dependent on many different services, and this become very expensive. So I think as a young company, you tend to ignore these costs, and by the time you start noticing, then it's already very late. So even things like using Gmail and using Slack and and Zoom and all this like very basic services, but when you have like 50 of these services, probably in a company like Laundryheap, and each of these services cost you like a few £1,000 a month, it becomes a very big cost right away.
That's such an interesting point. Yeah, and they do such a good job, and many of them now have good revenues. They've all listed on the stock market, and they've kind of got good models of cost per user. It's a really interesting space, the SaaS space. But as you said, it adds up, especially as you're growing people and customers. Do you or your partner or your team, do you look to have a sort of a hybrid approach to that as well? Do you use open source technology? Do you kind of try and build as much as your own proprietary tech stack as possible?
Well, so we try not to build something that we can get from the outside. So that will be like maybe kind of the first question that we'd ask ourselves. Can we? Is it better? Is it faster if we just buy it like right away? At the same time, like then the second question maybe would be like how core, this is to our business, right? So I mean, obviously we would use Gmail. We will not build our own mail mail client. But then at the same time, things that are related to the customer experience and how people are thinking about laundry, how people are ordering laundry, how our partners, how our drivers use the service. Then we have to build it ourselves, just because there is nothing out there that kind of really works for us. So it's a bit of both. For example, we use a lot of traffic data from Google, and we pay a lot of money for that. But of course, we don't have our own traffic data, so it just makes a lot of sense. But then, deciding on which driver does which order and what's the most efficient way, we try to use our own systems, again, helped by external algorithms, even things like weather that we source from somewhere else, but then we try to plug it into our own system.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's kind of it's a good approach. So the business, the offering, the name is obviously Laundryheap. Would you consider other services like cleaning services and things like that? We're seeing, especially in Dubai, we see so many companies offer super apps and so many different things. Would that be part of your expansion plans?
Well, this is it's very tempting, right? Because every founder is greedy, and you want to, in kind of maybe the good greediness that you want to grow your business, you want to have it bigger just for the sake of being bigger. But I think, and this is a very kind of, it's something that seems easy, right? We already have these millions of users, so let's just offer them something else, and they would buy it. Hopefully, and then there is the user acquisition cost is one of the largest costs for any startup. So it kind of seems obvious that you can just do more with your existing user base. The problem with that is that all of the services are so different. So the question is, can you provide a great service as a company? And I don't think the answer is yes in all cases. Maybe there's some services that make sense to be provided together and the user experience could be enhanced. But I think for many of these services, they're just so different. And also, are they provided by, for example, in our case, right? We use third-party cleaning facilities, and that's very different than a cleaner coming to your home, right? And it might seem for the user that, let's say, dry cleaning and home cleaning, it's very similar as a service. Operationally, it works very differently. So you're building a completely different company. So our belief is that we should do what we do best. We don't believe that we should have our own dry cleaning facilities, for example, because there are other people that just do it so much better. We should focus on what we do. So we've kind of defined ourselves to being the platform. But I do understand why some other startups that have kept geographically to one location decided to diversify in number of services. One thing that you see, even in Dubai, as you said, of course, I found it also quite interesting. I was in Dubai in February, and there's so many super apps now. And the thing is, these apps don't exist here in the UK so much. You have an app for everything, but you don't have these generic apps. But I think even in Dubai, what's happening now is that these apps don't always provide all the services themselves. They're just a place where you can find all the services, you can find access to them, but you don't necessarily get the same service from the original app providers. So it's more like a regeneration rather than kind of, let's do these 20 services now and we can do them well.
Yeah, there's a benefit of focusing on one thing well. So from a consumer point of view, I get it. I download Laundryheap. I need to do my laundry. I use it. They come, the quick service, everything's clean. From a vendor or a merchant point of view, is there any encouragement or incentive for them to embrace it? Could they use your technology to manage the rest of their bookings? Is that something that you're trying to kind of work on as well?
Yeah, so it's one thing we've seen from the very beginning is that there are these professional dry cleaning places that have been around for many years, right? All of our partners, many of them are family-owned businesses. They've existed for 30 or more years, right? So they're very good at what they're doing. They haven't embraced kind of technology so much. So they have kind of all these old-fashioned systems for managing inside the processing. But at the same time, they understand it very well. So they have a lot of these like soft skills into doing laundry and dry cleaning really well. So I think that the way we work is best really for them and for us. Like some of them, they've tried in the past to have a website, to have a mobile app. Like it's so cheap now, right? You can buy it for a few $100s. You can have a mobile application, but then it doesn't mean anything. We're a team of almost 100 people. So if anyone could just buy an app for $200 and then start doing the same thing what we're doing, then like what is everyone in Laundryheap doing? So I think there is a lot of value that's missed there. So from our perspective, again, we don't do the cleaning. We don't understand how to do the cleaning. So we work with people that understand it. So I think it's a win-win for both parties. And it's something that we've seen now with COVID. Kind of historically, when we go to our partners, some of them would understand it, but many of them would not understand it. They would not see, especially in the Western markets, West in Dubai, I guess, is they would not see why would people buy it online, right? Like they used to historically have shops where people come in and bring their dry cleaning, so they would not understand that there is this big opportunity. And now with COVID, they had to realize it very quickly. The government closed their shops. There was nowhere else to get business from, and people shifted significantly to doing things online. So I think it's like COVID kind of brought the future a lot faster. Maybe this would have happened like in 5 years, but now it happened over like 5 months.
That's interesting. Do you think that observation that you've made there is the same everywhere? Because some of the things that we've seen in different categories is that people are doing more at home in the past year, especially those who continue to work from home. And I was thinking maybe people might do their laundry at home, but because in Dubai, the laundry service companies wouldn't be closed, whereas in the UK, the local dry cleaning shop is shut. So it needs that sort of service. But was that different? Did you see more people using it in the UK because the store was shut, and did you see less people using it here maybe because they were at home and they did their own dry cleaning?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of both. I think like Facebook Dubai was already more advanced in that respect, that people used to order their service, like their laundry at home anyway.
Yeah.
Kind of like historically in the UK, you would bring your shirts to the dry cleaner. But very rarely your dry cleaner would come to home, and almost never your dry cleaner would do laundry. So that's something that we invented, the whole category of the service wash practically. So very, very few people in the UK don't have a washing machine. So dry cleaners were almost never doing service wash, and service wash is what we do the most in our company. So I think there is a bit of both. On one hand, as I said, Dubai was already more advanced, so the shops didn't have to close for people to start ordering at home. So things kind of, I guess, improved still, but not with such a rate that people in the UK had to adapt, because there was literally no other way to do it. And then we discovered a lot of interesting user groups for us. During the pandemic, we saw a lot of kind of younger people ordering for their elderly parents, our service, which was very interesting. It was not a target group and kind of demographic that we had seen before, but kind of at times of crisis, you have all of these groups that actually you realize they really need our service. There was this question early on in I guess early April last year here in the UK, what are the key services that should stay on? And we started getting these kind of emails from people with disabilities, elderly people, writing to us and asking us if our service will continue. And it was really an eye opener, because we didn't realize how many people actually depend on this service. So it's not just the convenience, but it's actually the need for the service, which is really great to see that you like what you're doing is actually like helping a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's interesting that what you might get for a loved one in a time of celebration or a time of need, we'd always turn to the internet, or we'd always turn to our phones and see, especially if we live in different countries, see can we deliver to that place. And it's funny, that behavior, although maybe not in your category yet, the kind of human behavior and the digitization of that behavior is happening. So obviously it makes sense for it to happen in laundry as well. So interesting. So, just as we finish up, I want to talk a little bit more about this region. How do you see the Middle East outside of sort of the laundry business and the markets that you're in terms of an emerging market? Obviously you want to be global, but and your partner is in India, but do you see more of an opportunity here for scale versus other emerging markets?
Well, I think I don't know if it's more, but I definitely see it's a great opportunity to scale. This is definitely a very well developed market, even kind of in terms of service, in terms of technology, in terms of understanding what you can get online. Like consumer services have been like thriving, I think, in place in Dubai, but also like in the whole of the Middle East, and we're actually in a couple of countries there, and we see the same behavior. So I think it's definitely it's definitely like a global place. So our service, we realize our service works really well, and we are investing more in the region and being able again to stay close to our customers, adapt our service even further, and be able to grow. It was very interesting actually, because I guess we're going back to COVID, but in the last 12 months, when many of our other cities were completely kind of closed and people were staying at home, and it was much harder to grow, like we saw a lot of growth in Dubai and in Singapore. So two cities in Asia that I think did really well managing COVID. And as a result, like businesses like ours, which is very global, managed to kind of to focus on markets that are growing faster. And we've seen some months we saw 100% growth month on month, which is quite significant. So for us, it's definitely a very important market, and we will keep investing.
Interesting. The cities that kind of opened up quicker. What about your investors? Are any of them from this region? And what would it take for you to move your headquarters to one of the big cities in the Middle East?
Well, we don't have investors from the region that I'm aware, at least, because we did some crowdfunding in the past, so we might have some investors from the regions as well. But some of our kind of recent REIT investors, they come from the UK, and like for them it was I believe quite important that we were a UK-based company. Yeah. At the same time, we earlier this year we set up a team in Dubai as well. So like we see the region quite important for us, and we're building like a stronger team over there to help us with operations, sales, kind of with everything that's needed on the ground. I mean, like we are like the HQ doesn't really make a lot of difference nowadays. Like we're still working from home completely. Like we have an office in London that's staying completely empty right now. So I think kind of in this like post-COVID world, like the HQ doesn't make kind of the office doesn't make such a big difference. And a company like ours, it's already in 25 cities around the world, kind of HQ doesn't make a big difference. So I think we would hire people wherever that makes sense, where there are good resources. We would go after markets that are developing faster than others, and so that's going to kind of lead what we do next.
Interesting. But do you think, can plans change, or is there a trajectory from a startup from the UK to raise all their rounds from that sort of ecosystem and then to have a potential exit in whatever way that that would manifest itself within that sort of UK startup, or can it move around? Could you potentially raise your different rounds in different regions? You're obviously in America, you're in Asia, and then, you know, do you have a roadmap for that, or do you kind of go focus on the audience growth, focus on the customers, and then see where the sort of where the globalization takes us in terms of financing and exits and things like that?
Well, I think we like to keep our options open, so that's why also the way we've set like the company structure, we have different entities in different countries, so we try to keep finances slightly like basically as separate as we can. Like also with this in mind that we don't know where this is going to lead us, and some markets are probably going to grow faster than the others, and like I'm confident there is going to be a lot of like consolidation on the markets as well. So that's something that we are exploring. We don't know the answers. There is nothing kind of we can announce right now, but there is we've set up ourselves in a path that we can explore these opportunities when they arise. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Like we're growing. We were not in the US pre-COVID. Now we're in 9 cities in the US, and we're expanding further. By early next year, we're going to be in 3 new countries. We're going to be in 10 more cities. So it's definitely a lot going on. And again, we don't know how things will change. So we kind of like we have plans, but ultimately like we've seen what happens in the last year that you know, it's good to have a plan, but then it's good to be able to adapt as well.
Brilliant. I think that perfectly sums up the business landscape at the moment. Thanks so much, Deyan, for your time this morning. It's been a pleasure, and the early start in London. We look forward to following Laundryheap, especially in Dubai and across the region, and I will keep in touch with your progress.
Thank you very much for the call, Richard.
Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm Richard Fitzgerald. This is Dubai Works, where we interview the business leaders making a difference in this great city.
That business with scalability was very interesting to me.
I like building something that has legacy.